welcome everyone to the fourth Town Hall. Town Halls, just to recap what we're doing with them, we are just going through a couple of things that we've been working on throughout the month, and then usually we may slap other topics onto them. So this time, for example, we are going to talk about the closed playtest number 1 that just wrapped up, and we already have some feedback, some charts that we can show off, and then also some discussions. But first, obviously, we are going to do a quick introduction. So yes, I will go over myself first because I'm a narcissist. No, that's fine.
Nice.
So I'm I'm Lucas. I'm the host. I'm working in the marketing team as communications manager, and I will guide through the entire town hall. And yeah, that's pretty much me. But we have a special guest today that is actually not on the chart. Maybe you can do a small introduction, Popocana. You are our new community manager, and it's so nice to have you. Maybe you can just introduce yourself a little bit.
Yes, thank you, Lucas. Hi, everybody. I'm Paulina. You can call me by my nickname, Popachana. I'm super excited to be here. First time, and you will see me around Discord quite a bit. If you have any questions, any concerns, any feedback, I will make sure to represent you to the team, and I will make sure everybody's voice is heard. So super nice to meet everybody, and let's have a great town hall.
Yeah, sounds good. Yeah.
Nice. So for the other speakers that will join us, Tamara will actually join us a little bit later if she can, because she needed to step out for a moment. But maybe Stephen and Martin, maybe you can do your introduction in the meanwhile.
Yeah, sure. So, hey everyone, I'm Stephen. I'm the art producer at Pixion and specifically working on Fableborne. My role is to make sure we can deliver all the areas of the art to bring everybody the best visual experience possible. Today I'm suffering a little bit with a cold, so please bear with me. And if I sound a bit weirdly nasally, just it's not normal. I just want to point that out. Should hopefully be back to full health soon.
You do sound a bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Nice, cool. I go next. Cool. So my name is Martin, or Martin in Spanish. I'm from Madrid, and I've been working at Pixion for the past 3.5 years, something like that. I'm in charge of the development of the client side of the code base, one of the developers there, basically making sure that everything that the designers and artists want to see in the game is there and it works as expected. We don't always get it right, but we try our best. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Everything from making releases to bug fixing to implementing new features, discussing with the different parts of the team, and making sure basically the glue that sticks the game together.
Nice. Cool. Then let's jump straight into the topics. We had a lot of things happening in this month. So, for example, just to recap real quick what happened, we did a whole big hero introduction for our latest hero, Leon, the Pridemain's Raw, which is the first melee hero that we have in Fableborne. And then we actually went straight into the closed playtest, and you were able to actually play Leon right away, which was super exciting. Overall, a very short time frame, but it turned out really, really well. But maybe for Leon specifically, so there's a lot of things you guys don't know, and a lot of things happened around the tier. And maybe Stephen, you can give us a summary of how Leon came to be in the end.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. Have we got the are people seeing the visuals of that? Or
Oh yes. So so if you go to Twitch, you can watch the live stream here. Let me just post it here as well, just for everyone. Why we are actually switching to Twitch. The last time we were showing videos right on Discord, it would be very, very laggy, and that's why we decided to switch and stream the whole presentation on Twitch. You don't have to watch it on Twitch, or like be active on Twitch, but it's more like a way for us to share the presentation to you in a little bit more smoother way.
Yeah, so I'll talk a bit about Leon. First off, we're super excited to finally have him in the game. He's been a character that we've been developing for a little while. And as Lucas mentioned, he's gone through a lot of changes since the very first time we kind of developed him. He was actually originally in the very first prototype of the game, way back before it was Fableborne, in actually a different style to this too, though we didn't have the image for that. But he started as the picture. If you're looking on the stream, he's on the right, where he's this kind of human character with his big pauldron and sword. And yeah, when we kind of developed him, we were thinking about a character that would be a tank and some sort of link to a kind of lion character. And at the time, the game was pretty early, and we hadn't really explored too much to do with the narrative side and the factions and sort of what that meant for the heroes. And then we kind of continued developing other things, and sort of when we came to make Leon, we sort of realized that maybe he had slightly become a little bit outdated to what we kind of were wanting for the characters. We started to deepen our world and explore what kind of races there might be, and that meant, maybe we wanted to introduce some characters early on that showed a little bit of that depth that will be coming later down the line with different races. And so we thought maybe we could work on this kind of idea of these chimera characters. So they're humanoid, but they have links to other kind of animals from the real world. So yeah, Leon felt like a good fit for that. So that was sort of one thing we kind of wanted to bring that into his design. The next part was we started looking more in depth at the factions and put a bit more time into thinking about what makes a faction and what does that look like on the characters. And again, we wanted to use Leon as a sort of way to define one of the factions, which is Aaron Draxus. And that sort of meant that, yeah, we were looking at things like what technology levels do each of these factions have? Like, do they use different materials to build with and to design, their artifacts, and how do they get their magic and all these things? Specific sort of visual cues as well that would allow you to link a character to a faction. And again, looking at the character design on the right, the original one, like it looks really cool, but it's lacking in this sort of depth of the story and the lore. We wanted to, yeah, I guess just bring a bit more of that in. Another thing that sort of impacted this decision was we brought a new feature into the game, which I'm not sure if we're talking about today, but it's the hotspot mechanic that was available in the recent release. Mm-hmm. Which sort of means that we wanted each hero to have like quite a distinctive look and feel and play style, and we kind of felt like we really wanted to push that more with each hero, so that when you switch to a different hero, you really get a sense of that hero fulfilling a different role, a different purpose. So we kind of felt like maybe we needed to push him a little bit further down the route of a big tank. So yeah, at that point we just realized, yeah, it was time to maybe rethink him. So we went down the route of, yeah, he's this cat chimera, he's a tank, he's from Aaron Draxus, the faction that get their power from these sort of elemental crystals that are on their armor. And so yeah, we decided to go and remake his visuals. A couple of other considerations we were thinking about were the mobile side of things, really pushing the shapes and the size of things so that on a mobile device he's really clear. Like, his weapon is now massive, his shoulder pad is massive, and those are sort of like some of the big elements that you really read when you're playing him in the game, which sort of help show which way he's facing and what he's going to do and things like this. Another thing that we were considering as well was, how do we tie their outfits into the function of the character? So we really wanted to have an element on him that he would be using in his skills. So we have this really big shoulder pad that he uses to run directly into buildings. So yeah, we really wanted to try and make it feel like he doesn't just look cool, but he has a reason behind the outfit choice that we've given him. So yeah, I mean, in essence, he's still the same character. It's just we just pushed everything a lot more and tried to make it feel more like a character from our game, and not just I guess once we had more information about what that meant. Yeah, I think like we definitely will learn a huge amount on the art team when making Leon, and he definitely now sets the benchmark, I'd say, about the visual quality that we want for future heroes, and we want to bring the same level of design and intent and thought to all the rest, and hopefully it means that Leon he'll be our our worst looking hero, which means we'll be in a very, very good place down the line.
Yeah, that'd be amazing.
I mean, I especially like that, like if you look at like the model, even the texture, like the metal is a little bit like, how do you call it? Like breaking off a little bit, like on the texture itself. So it's like a used X, and it's really nice, right? It's just not fully clean, and that just gives this like a lot of depth. It's quite funny because like a lot of people have never played the prototype, right? And initially, without spoiling too much, but in the initial prototype, a couple of heroes that you had back then, like they were looking completely different, but some of them were still tied to animals, funnily enough, right? So we had a archer type character that was not really related to RV, but that was actually a fox, right? And now we come full circle, which is kind of funny, but also kind of cool.
Yeah, lots of different ideas going around, but yeah, I definitely feel like we're heading in the right direction now.
Yeah, it's also, I think, throughout the whole feedback from the community throughout like the release and then also the playtest, we'll see the feedback in a bit, of course, but I think people like Leon quite a lot, and he has a lot of character, and that's kudos to you guys. But I really enjoy it, and also playing him. To be honest, it's kind of fun.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Then maybe we go over the next topic, which will be the talents. That was a new feature that we added, and Martin is gonna tell you about it a little bit more.
Yeah, I can. So since the last town hall, I think we already showed them, but it was like the, let's say, V1 of the feature. Since then, they've evolved quite a bit. We had the most basic implementation done, which had very basic talents, and I think since then we've added a bunch. I know one of the developers was adding them for like 2 weeks, just more systems that we can iterate and designers can change. And this is more like the final thing we have at the moment, that the one that was in the last release, which is you have this option to select the talent and then you upgrade it, you get it, right? But there's rarities as well. There's many different parameters that can be changed now that before we couldn't. So it has given a lot more flexibility to designers and the balancing. So now we can play with other tweaks that before we couldn't. I think you guys have played it in the last release, so you probably can tell us better what you think. But it's an improvement for sure.
It's really fun, and I think like the most fun I had was actually like just trying out different builds. And I can remember when I was very lucky to be able to pick a lot of attack speed talents for RV, and that was just like absolutely hilarious.
Yeah, like maxing out that specific skill.
Yeah. But I think that's also amazing because that system leaves us a lot of flexibility, right? So if we could theoretically add more and more talents to the game for different characters, and then you could build really completely different characters. And I think also what's really nice, like I think it's not something that we are really considering, but for example, you can also, or you need to unlock your abilities in the talent system, right? For example, you need to unlock Kiara's special ability and then the ultimate ability as well. Now, there might be like in the future, like I'm just like fantasizing almost, but there might be even the opportunity to give like Kiara 2 different ultimate abilities that you can choose from. So I think it's a very flexible system that leaves a lot of opportunities for now and then of course for the future.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
Like
for sure.
two Kiaras can feel completely different.
Exactly, but I think that's also cool because the heroes will be one of the collection that we'll have in the game for NFTs, and of course that makes them very interesting, right? So because you could build your character and then you could trade it and you can make it very, very powerful if you're lucky, unlocking rare and legendary abilities or talents. So I think there's a lot of like depth to that system that we have not even touched on fully. So it's very amazing to see how it will evolve over the next couple of months.
Yeah.
And of course, it's also quite smooth. Of course, one thing always to add is that the talent system as well as the building system that we have in the game, all of those things are still quite work in progress, which means there will be tweaks and changes, be it on the UI, the talents, the balancing. Basically, everything is still ongoing. So everything you see for those systems, they are not finished in any way. And
Yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
and to be honest, like I mean, we are still in, I would say, working up towards the alpha. So we are not even at the alpha build yet. So it's still quite early, but I think seeing how much people enjoy the systems already, I think it's going into the right direction.
Yeah, the potential is definitely there. Yeah.
Cool. So maybe let's go quickly over the UI improvements that we've worked on. What do we see here?
Yeah. So in this case, the basic things is the new trophy bar at the top. Before it was at the bottom and it was a bit harder to understand. This one is a linear, just a progress bar that's more clear. You see the white threshold there, which is the victory threshold, right? So once you cross that, you know you've won the raid. Even if you die, you still get the rewards.
Mm,
And the other improvement is now we show the level of the character slash hero something besides the HP. So you know at a glance, like, is this enemy going to be really tough? Is going to be easier?
mm.
So you get a better idea of what you're facing, basically.
Okay, I see. Cool. And for the other one, like, what do we see here? So we see the trophy bar, right? That's changed now.
Yeah, so on the
Uh,
right, you see the old one at the bottom and the new one at the top. That's a way to check
mhm.
both. They're similar, but the new one is a bit more clear and it covers less space
Yeah.
as well. Like that was an area of the screen that you could use to look at enemies coming in, and it was covering it. So we think this is better for visibility. And then on the left, you see like a static representation of the raid preview where you can assess like this is what I'm going to face, right? That you can select the portal you want, but you can also see the level of the enemies. So you can maybe before you couldn't and you didn't know maybe this area has less enemies, but maybe they're higher level, and I'm not sure, right? So now
Mm,
you have more information to make a
yeah.
decision, basically.
Yeah. Makes total sense. And then I think we have one last thing to go over, and that's the tutorial. I think one of the feedbacks we got quite a bit is that it's a little bit hard to understand when you drop into the game what you're supposed to do. And I think to be fair, that's also because the game is still in an alpha state, right? So we don't have an actual tutorial that you would expect from any mobile game that you just download on the store. Um, Usually those are quite important, especially for the retention of the game, because you want to teach people how to play the game. Now, it doesn't make sense for us to add like a super complex tutorial when there are a lot of things still changing and be added to the game. But that will come. But for now, our marketing artists have actually worked on tutorial videos that we are implementing into the next build that should help us. If you have played the latest playtest, you were able to actually see two of those free videos already. And maybe we can just cover them briefly. I'll just play them here in the background. I hope it's not
Yeah,
lagging. No, it's perfectly fine.
yeah, it's much smoother than Discord.
Yeah.
Good choice.
But
But yeah, yeah.
I would also say for the tutorials especially, those are things that we will continuously update throughout the next months, throughout the playtests, depending on if there's a new feature added. And then once the game is in a state where it's pretty final, then of course we'll work on the actual tutorial for the game, for the release build, for the final one. Um, but that's an ongoing process. Maybe also to go over real quick what we're doing with the playtests. Maybe that's something if somebody's joining new, they would like to know. So we have planned ongoing playtests throughout the next months, meaning between 2 to 3 weeks, we are going to host a relatively short playtest through 3 days maximum for people to just play the build and give feedback on specific features. Now, the first playtest, of course, that covered a lot. of topics or a lot of points that were added new. But going forward, of course, the features that will be added throughout each and every playtest will be not minor, but of course there will be less than like 20, 30 different features. No, it's going to be like maybe 2 or 3 features that will be added with each playtest. And then we, of course, need you guys' feedback to improve on those features, because without you guys, we cannot actually build Fableborne and make it an amazing game. But yeah, so maybe we want to. I need to skip here. Okay, perfect. So maybe we just go over the feedback now and just see what people liked and what they did not like. And I think one really amazing part here is that most of the people actually enjoyed the game quite a bit. We will be releasing later today a blog post as well with a little bit more detailed feedback. But we were able to actually see that almost almost everyone liked the game. It's currently rated out as 8 out of 10, which is really amazing. It's pretty much aligns with the first pre-alpha that we did last year. So it's pretty much unchanged, but people really like playing Fableborne, which is really, really important for us. It gives us a lot of, I would say, understanding where we are and where we need to be with the game. And that means we are on a really good track right now. In terms of which hero was played the most, or which hero people enjoyed the most, it's interestingly enough, it's Avi. Don't scold me. It was like gameplay wise my favorite one as well, funnily enough. But I would just like to see like what people think maybe in chat. Are you surprised that Avi was actually the most favorite one of people? Interesting.
I think he's probably the one in the team that most people say is his favorite. I think it's something about his mobility. He's
Yeah. I think that's true. I think I think probably Leon was the least picked or like least favorite actually, because people had the least exposure to him gameplay wise yet. So I think people really didn't fully grasp yet how to utilize him properly. That might explain why he was not as favored. But yeah, I think Avi is also fun because we reworked him quite a bit, right? We had different talents, different abilities the last time. But I think he plays much more refined, even if you cannot shoot while moving. That was just a little bit overpowered. But I think balancing wise, we are actually in a decent spot when it comes to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see what the comments say. Leon was broken. Oh yeah. Maybe in more ways than others. I think there was a bug with the onslaught ability, so even if he was busted, he was broken at the same time, I guess. But I think it's also really cool with the hot swapping feature. For everyone who has not really had exposure to that as well, I explain it real quick. So you can actually choose multiple heroes before you start raiding, and then you can swap between them. Now, we'll go over the feedback in a second, but what's cool is that you can build different combos, right? So, for example, you can go in with Avi, you can poke at enemies, then you go in with Kiara, then you freeze everything, and then you just finish off the towers with Leon. That is really, really nice, and it just adds a lot of depth to the gameplay. Quite frankly, I think the first time when I played the game, I was a little bit concerned that if you have only 3 abilities, it might be a little bit lacking in the depth later on. But now, since we have the hot swapping feature, it's much more complex what you actually can do in the game.
Yeah,
and then,
I think with the hot swapping, it's a really cool feature now. But if we fast forward, 6 months or a year down the line, it's one of my favorite features because of that fact where the more heroes we introduce to the game, the more variants we have of people finding builds and combinations of heroes that work well together. And yeah, it's definitely a very exciting feature that I'm really glad that we brought to the game.
Yeah, I agree.
I think what's basically we are taking out of or like as feedback right now that is quite relevant for us is that Liam was still quite hard to control. I think that is something that we still need to improve on. I think the reason also why probably Avi was more preferred than Leon is that Avi is much more refined now in terms of how he plays, versus Leon has still a couple of like issues, especially with targeting. But again, like that's something that was actually reported on the community feedback, and that's actually something we're looking into quite a bit now. Um, so yes, so the hero upgrade system. So for the talents, whether it was easy to understand or not, very straightforward. Even without a tutorial, I think it's fairly easy to understand, and I think that's extremely important for any mobile game. Quite frankly, if you cannot just understand what you're supposed to do in the game, um, it's tricky. Um, but I think so. There was one interesting suggestion was to separate abilities in the talent system. Um, and I get the gist of it. I think it kind of makes sense, but I'm not sure if it's something that we will, adapt. Because again, like if we want to have multiple cool abilities that you could unlock throughout the way, I think that would just hard lock you into a very strict selection of talents or like abilities. Um, but it's certainly something that we will look into. Again, it's a very, very early version of the system overall. And it's pretty much the first time we shot the talent system. Um, but, like initially, we had a lot of ideas and, there will be more ideas added. I think it's really cool that talent system, even now in a very early stage, lets you change how you play that character. Because like when I heard about the talent system first, I was concerned that we're just adding damage boosts and then attack speed boosts, but nothing else. But we're adding more and more really cool tweaks, like changing the range or the cooldown or adding certain effects. I think what we can teaser, what we're currently working on, is giving Leon a bleed ability or a fire damage over time ability. We're not 100% sure yet. How we are going to do it, but we're adding a damage over time effect to his main attack. And that changes how he plays basically, right? Because now you can actually kite a little bit with him as well.
And another thing to keep in
Yeah.
mind there is that with the hot swapping, even if we don't have more heroes at the moment, like you could be able to bring 3 Kiaras to the raid, and they're all different types. Like you have like a DPS Kiara, a tank Kiara, right? You could have like squads and builds of different heroes of the same hero within the squad, which is cool as well. Like it gives you a lot more flexibility.
Oh, no.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good point. Yeah.
I'm just like, okay, there's just an army of Kiaras now raiding. That's gonna be fun.
That's an option.
Oh yeah, I think that there's one good suggestion. I would suggest even a slowed cooldown for abilities and those while an echo isn't used. Um, yeah, I think there's a lot of balancing to do. And I think we are in a very early stage. I think one of the next steps is actually adding more talents to the whole system and then also refining the hot swapping feature. Um, it's like it's a little bit clunky, but it's overall I think pretty well received already. I think there's one topic that I'll cover in a second as well, how people perceive the hot swapping feature. Um, but maybe let's go in order real quick. So we were actually thinking about making the talent system automatically assign talents, but most of the people actually prefer that it's picked, so they can pick it themselves and don't assign it automatically. I think realistically having it automatically assigned might be something for the future where it's an auto feature that you can activate or not. But I assume that based on this feature, we'll just leave it as is for now. But I think having the choice to actually select what you want to build is much better than just making it automated and completely random. yeah, so how often did players actually use the hot swapping feature? That's quite interesting because it's completely spread out, right? So some people never use it at all, or they just, swap to another hero when their hero dies. Um, but other people just swap for it, more than 5 times in a raid. So I think that there will be also a balance to be had internally where we need to see, how do we want to build the game? Like, do we want to have people, switch characters 1, 2, 3 times, or do you have to actually swap between characters a lot to actually be viable? I think that it needs to be a good balance, right? I think
Yeah.
eventually. Yeah, because like if you need to swap between like 3 different heroes all the time to just pull off combos to actually progress, I think that's gonna be quite distracting for a lot of people. But if you never use the feature, then then one hero is just overpowered, right? If you just run with Kiara and just like obliterate everything, and you never have to swap at all, then I think that's also kind of a fail on our end. So I think 1 to 2 or 4 to 5 times, I think is gonna be the sweet spot.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Cool. Then one other point that's super important for us is, how accessible is the game, how easy it is to understand and pick up. And I think here again, I think it's over 8 out of 10 rated right now, which is also really amazing. So thanks to the tutorial, but also then most importantly, how easy it is to actually play the game and how well the user interface is already designed. I think it's fairly straightforward. And of course, we're taking a lot of inspiration, let's say, from Clash of Clans in terms of certain aspects. So I think people who have been or had exposure to, let's say, an action RPG on mobile or Clash of Clans or any other strategy game, in that sense, they will be able to pick up the game quite easily. And I think that makes total sense. In terms of the control of the heroes, I think it's a little bit more mixed, but it's still very, very positive. Um, I would assume I'm contributing that actually to maybe Leon being a little bit clunky here and there still. But again, like that's the first time Leon was playable. Um, so we actually added the ultimate for Leon quite late overall in the development cycle for the hero. So um, having a slightly clunky ult that at that time I think makes sense and it's fine. We're gonna balancing it and then making it a little bit nicer later on. Um, Maybe to the building system because that's also something where people had exposure now in this playtest and never before. For people who have not seen the building feature yet, that's basically how you build your base. You unlock your island, then you place building structures on it and upgrade them. And that could be defensive towers, for example, the arrow tower or the tremor tower or tremor maker, or you place, for example, units like the lizards or the bats that you can also upgrade. And then you build resource and gathering buildings. So let's say the gold mine to gather resources from your own island. And how it will likely turn out is that in the future you will be able to have multiple islands and then gather resources from them. And then of course you need to defend against other people so they don't steal your resources. And yeah, I think overall it's still fairly understandable. People got the gist of it quite easily. So that's a good point. And I think that was actually the last slide already. So we have a little bit more information in the blog post that we will share shortly after this town hall. And then, of course, there will also be a video on demand that we'll be sharing on YouTube later, probably next week. So everyone who missed it will be able to catch up on everything town hall. Maybe as a last part, if you guys have any questions, just drop them please in the chat on Discord so we can go through them. And I will just have a look now. Yeah, I think one interesting thing that we saw is that a lot of people took the Tremor Makers and combined them with the Golems, right? And that was a fairly strong combo. But of course, that's all balancing. And to be quite frank, I think maybe like Steven, you want to go for it real quick, but the Golem is not something that's going to stick in the game. It's a temporary unit, and it's going to be replaced with the Bear unit eventually, right?
Yeah. We just put something in quick for now, but yeah, it's going to be a much nicer looking unit soon.
It literally went like this. Okay, we need like a big unit in the game, right? It's like, okay, take the lizard, just scale it up. Oh, it looks way too much like a lizard. Oh, let's slap another color on it. And that was that was how we did that. So yeah, that's real development for you.
Yeah, it was a painful choice, but we just needed something, so we'll definitely fix that.
but I think that's totally fine, right? Because it's still in development, and I think it's much better to have more choice in the game right away, even if it's not the final visuals, just to get the initial feedback. But yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. So a couple of seconds before we wrap up the town hall, just if you have any questions, just let us know. Already finished the survey. What's the next step? So I think you're referring to the community survey probably. So the community survey is not really tied into the playtest. The next playtest actually will happen in, or the next announcement for the next playtest will happen within, the next 2 weeks, I would say. So stay tuned. And once we announce the next playtest, you will be having a choice to actually join that playtest. So just stay for the lookout, follow the socials, and as soon as we announce it, you will be able to register and then have a chance to participate. Can we reduce the portal entry of our bases to our choice or mandatory? I think there's a lot of things that will be changing for the islands that we have not showed yet. But I think that's under consideration. Maybe Martin, you can just give us maybe a quick summary of what we're currently working on for the islands. Feel free to spoil a little bit as well.
Yeah, I mean, I think the portals haven't been considered yet to be able to block them or something. But I mean, there's lots of like sketch designs that are not confirmed. Like I think they were thinking about maybe at some point adding a shield to a specific portal, so this one cannot be used, right? Or maybe I don't know. It's still too early to say, but it is things we're exploring.
Yeah, and I think we are also considering changing the layout or like how islands are built a little bit. I think it's something that we actually saw yesterday the first time internally, like at least like the marketing team. So there's a lot of things moving in the background that you don't see, and a lot of things will be changing. And I think like checking or making a choice which portal is active or not, like of course that's a consideration, but it's
also
very early
looks before like the cooldown for the hot swapping. I think it's something that we noticed immediately the moment we started playing with it, but the way the combat system was designed, it wasn't allowing for that at the moment. So it is for sure we have a task somewhere to track that, so not sure if it's coming or not, but it's something we are thinking about as well.
Yeah, but I think that's exactly why we're having the playtests, right? We do a playtest 3 days, get immediate feedback on the features, and then adjust the feedback, address the feedback, and then add more features, and then roll out the next playtest to revalidate basically the assumptions that we had, and then also test out new features. And that's how we're going to develop the game over the next couple of months, and probably going forward as well. It's just so much better to get immediate feedback from a lot of more people than just like 3, 4, 5 people who are playtesting internally. And down the line, exactly, like to be honest, down the line, we're building a game for players and our community. So we want you guys to be involved as much as possible. Cool. Then let's wrap up the town hall. So thanks everyone for joining. Be on the lookout for the feedback blog post that I will be pushing out later today, and then also the announcement for the second playtest. Super excited, and I guarantee you it's gonna be much earlier than you think it will be.
Cool. Thanks, guys. Catch you later.
Yeah, thanks a lot. It's great to be here.
See you on the next town hall.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.